The rain tapped gently on the tin roof, a rhythm too soft to match the pounding in Kimi's chest. Inside her one-room apartment, the blue light of her battered laptop screen flickered like a dying star. For the third time that day, her YouTube upload failed. A spinning wheel. A crash. That little error box might as well have been a slap. She closed the lid slowly, as if sealing away a dream she wasn't sure she could open again. Her voice trembled in the stillness. "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this," she whispered to no one in particular, except perhaps the shadows that had learned all her secrets. The air smelled faintly of wet earth and disappointment. This wasn't how the dream was supposed to go. She had imagined applause, not buffering. Connection, not silence. Before bills and bad Wi-Fi, there was a little girl with quick fingers and a restless mind. At 6, Kimi could turn bottle caps into earrings and old wrappers into doll dresses. She didn't need toys, she made them. Her mother, always watching from the doorway with a half smile, called her the maker. While her friends played tag in the dusty yard, Kimi was inside, creating new worlds from scraps. Her creations weren't just pretty, they were clever. She once made a small purse from woven nylon threads that lasted longer than anything from the market. That purse became her first taste of pride, proof that she could bring something valuable into the world without having much at all. The fire began then, though she didn't yet know it would one day be tested. At 23, Kimi's fire was dimming. Her one-room apartment in the outskirts of Lagos was crammed with mismatched furniture and the smell of kerosene from her neighbor's cooking stove. She juggled small gigs, helping in a tailor's shop, selling handmade hairpins at the roadside, but the dream was YouTube. Each night, she balanced her borrowed laptop on a stool, using her phone as a makeshift tripod. The fan squeaked in the corner, the only thing moving in the heavy heat. There was no ring light, no editing software worth mentioning, and certainly no one clapping behind the camera. Just Kimi, her tools, and a sense that maybe reality didn't care about her dreams. Sleep wouldn't come. Wrapped in her thin bedsheet, Kimi scrolled Instagram, half distraction, half desperation. Most posts were glossy and perfect, everything her reality wasn't. Then she stopped. A black square with white text read, "High-quality ideas aren't born in luxury. They're born in clarity, relevance, and purpose." She stared at it, her breath catching. Something shifted in her chest. Maybe it was never about the gear or the gloss. Maybe it had always been about the way she told the story. At 2:14 a.m., she opened her phone's notepad. Her fingers moved faster than her doubt could keep up. The idea spilled out, creating beauty from nothing. It wouldn't be a tutorial, but a story. Her story. Morning came gray and sticky, but Kimi felt lighter. She drafted her plan on a scrap of paper. Film using dawn's light through her window, use her uncle's lamp for close-ups, record her voice under a blanket to block noise. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. She decided the video wouldn't just show how she made things, but why. The problem each piece solved. The memory it carried. The hope it represented. Every second would have intention. Every word would hold her truth. She set the stool in place, balanced her cracked phone, and hit record. For the first time in months, she felt like the maker again. The sun rose slow and golden, spilling through Kimi's cracked window like a shy guest. She positioned her work table beneath it, watching how the light traced her hands as they moved. Her tripod, a stack of old textbooks, wobbled slightly, but she steadied it with masking tape. Every detail mattered now. She spoke softly into the camera, showing how an empty sardine tin could be turned into a trinket box. The metal caught the light, and for a moment, she forgot about the peeling paint on the wall behind her. She was lost in the making. The shadows in the corners of the room didn't feel oppressive anymore. They felt like an audience, leaning in. When filming ended, another battle began, editing. The laptop fan whined like it was in pain. Every click came with a delay. Every cut took minutes instead of seconds. She draped a scarf over her head to muffle the noise from her neighbor's generator. 3 days passed in a blur of trimming clips, adjusting audio, and writing captions by hand before typing them into the video. Her eyes burned, her back ached, But each time she replayed the footage, she smiled. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. The first upload attempt froze at 38%. The second died at 71%. The third got all the way to 92% before the power blinked off, throwing her into darkness. Kimi sat motionless in the shadows, feeling like the city itself was testing her. On the fourth try, she stayed awake through the night, watching the bar crawl to the end. When the final upload successful notification appeared, she laughed, half joy, half exhaustion. She didn't even watch it go live. She simply closed her eyes and let sleep claim her. The first hours were quiet. No comments, no likes, no signs that the internet even knew she existed. Kimi told herself not to check, but her fingers betrayed her, refreshing the page every few minutes. By nightfall, the video had 20 views, probably half of them her own. She tried to bury her disappointment under logic. Maybe it just takes time, she whispered, but the doubt was already curling its fingers around her heart. The next morning, she almost didn't check, but when she finally opened YouTube, her breath caught. 2,000 views. By the second day, 18,000. By the third, 80,000. The comments section was alive. Messages from strangers telling her she'd inspired them, that they'd been ready to quit until they saw her video. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. Somewhere in the noise of likes and shares, she felt it. This was more than numbers. This was connection. The world wasn't just watching her make things. They were seeing her. Kimi sat on the edge of her bed, knees pulled up to her chest, reading the comments one by one. This is the most heartfelt video I've seen in months. I was about to quit. You made me stay. Who knew someone in a room like mine could make me feel this scene? She didn't know most of these names or faces, but she felt the weight of their words. For years, her creations had existed in the quiet, admired by neighbors, gifted to friends, but never seen by strangers who shared her struggles. Now, her voice reached beyond Lagos, beyond Nigeria. She felt both exposed and alive. In the middle of her swelling inbox, one message stood out. It was from a girl named Ada, who lived in Ibadan. I used to feel ashamed of my small tools, until I saw you. Kimi read it 3 times, tears threatening. It wasn't just the message, it was the recognition of herself in Ada's words. That shame, that sense of being less than, was something she'd carried for years. And now, to know that her story had flipped that script for someone else, it was the kind of validation she'd never imagined. 2 weeks later, she received an email inviting her to speak at a women's creative summit in Lagos. Her first thought was, they must have sent this to the wrong person. She'd never spoken on a stage before. She wasn't sure if she could string 2 sentences together without her voice shaking. But she said yes. The night before the event, she stood in front of her mirror, practicing lines she'd written on an index card. Her voice cracked. Her palms sweated. But the next morning, under the bright lights of the stage, she told her story, not perfectly, but honestly. And when she stepped off, strangers came up to her with the same look Ada's words had given her, the look of recognition. That summit sparked something. Kimi realized her story wasn't just her own. It was a lifeline for others. She decided to start a digital series called The Maker's Journey, dedicated to helping young creatives see their limitations as strengths. She filmed the first episode in her bedroom, same as before, but this time she spoke directly to the people on the other side of the screen. Your small space doesn't make you less. Your tools don't define your talent. The story you tell is the most powerful thing you own. When she uploaded it, she didn't care if it reached 20 people or 20,000. She knew it mattered either way. Within a month, she began receiving collaboration requests from other creators. Some offered cross-promotions, others wanted to feature her in their content. One small craft store offered to send her free supplies. She accepted the offers that felt right, turning down those that wanted to change her voice or polish her into something she wasn't. Her subscriber count grew steadily, but more importantly, the comments section turned into a little community. People sharing their own projects, swapping tips, cheering each other on. Kimi wasn't just building a channel anymore. She was building a movement. The more her channel grew, the more voices joined the conversation. Some supportive, some sharp. One comment read, "She's just using the struggle story for views." Another, "If she was really good, she wouldn't still be filming in that tiny room." At first, Kimi tried to ignore them, but the words itched under her skin. She found herself replaying them in her head while brushing her teeth, while cooking noodles, while trying to sleep. Then she remembered Ada's message. She remembered the women at the summit. She reminded herself that not everyone would understand her journey, and that was fine. Her voice wasn't meant for everyone. When the neighborhood transformer blew, the entire street went dark for a week. Most people complained. Kimi adapted. She filmed short tutorials during daylight, using her neighbor's white bedsheet as a reflector. She edited at an internet cafe, surrounded by noisy gamers and students rushing to finish assignments. It was exhausting, but it taught her something crucial. If she could keep creating in these conditions, there was no excuse for stopping when things got hard. The video she made that week became one of her most watched, titled "Creating in the Dark." The comments poured in, "If she can keep going, so can I." With growth came new opportunities and contracts. Kimi quickly realized she knew nothing about brand deals, copyright laws, or payment terms. She almost signed a contract that would have given a company rights to her content forever. Thankfully, another creator she'd collaborated with caught it in time. Over late-night phone calls, they walked her through the basics of creative business. Always read the fine print, never give away your rights, and value your work like it matters, because it does. Kimi began to see herself not just as an artist, but as a professional. After months of saving ad revenue and small collaboration payments, Kimi walked into an electronics store and bought her first real camera. It wasn't top of the line, but it felt like gold in her hands. She carried it home in its box like it was a newborn. That night, she filmed a short video, not a tutorial, not a story, just a thank you. She thanked her viewers for believing in her before she had anything worth showing. She promised to keep telling the truth, no matter how much her circumstances changed. One Saturday, she gathered a group of neighborhood teenagers in her tiny apartment. They sat on the floor, knees bumping, while she showed them how to film with just a phone and natural light. She taught them how to edit with free software, how to record voiceovers without expensive mics. They left with smiles, scraps of paper filled with tips, and the same spark she had felt the night she saw that Instagram quote. Kimi realized then that this, passing the spark on, was the real reward. The counter ticked slowly at first, 99, 997, 99, 998, 99,999. Then, in a breath, it happened. 100,000. Kimi stared at the number on her screen as though it might vanish if she blinked. She thought of every failed upload, every night editing in the heat, every "maybe I'm not cut out for this" she'd whispered to herself. She posted a celebratory video, but privately, she sat in silence for a while, letting the reality sink in. Her bedroom, once a place of frustration, was now the headquarters of a movement seen by thousands. The tin roof overhead still rattled in the rain, but now, each drop sounded like applause. An email arrived from an international creative network inviting her to speak at a global virtual conference. The theme was creativity without borders. They wanted her to share her journey and insights on turning limitations into strengths. On the day of the event, Kimi sat in front of her camera, hair neatly braided, a scarf draped behind her to hide the peeling paint. She spoke to an audience scattered across continents. Artists in Paris, filmmakers in Mumbai, designers in Nairobi. And for the first time, she felt the truth in the phrase she'd once dismissed. Her voice had no borders. A Nigerian filmmaker reached out, saying he wanted to create a short documentary about her life and work. At first, Kimi laughed. Her life felt too small to fill a film. But as they planned, she realized how many layers there were to her story. The little girl making doll clothes from wrappers, the young woman uploading her truth from a cramped apartment, the creator who sparked others into action. Filming began, and she found herself retracing old steps, back to the tailor shop, the roadside market, even the internet cafe where she'd edited during a blackout. Each place reminded her that her journey was still being written. With the documentary crew, Kimi traveled to Ibadan for the first time. There, she met Ada, the girl whose message had once pulled her from the edge of quitting. Ada was younger than Kimi had imagined, shy but with a spark in her eyes that felt familiar. They spent the afternoon crafting together, laughing over scraps of fabric and mismatched beads. As they worked, Ada admitted, "When I saw your video, I thought, if she can do it with what she has, maybe I can too." Kimi left Ibadan with more than footage for the documentary. She left with a reminder that impact was measured in people, not numbers. The weeks that followed were a blur of interviews, events, and editing deadlines. Kimi found herself saying yes to everything: collaborations, guest spots, workshops. Her schedule became a knot she couldn't untangle. One night, she sat at her desk, staring at her open laptop, and realized she had nothing left to give. The excitement that had once fueled her was gone. Her ideas felt dry, her energy brittle. For the first time since she'd started, she considered walking away, not because she wasn't succeeding, but because she was too tired to keep going. Burnout clung to Kimi like a heavy coat she couldn't take off. One evening, she visited her mother, seeking comfort in the small, familiar kitchen where the scent of stew always lingered. As they peeled yams together, Kimi confessed, "I think I've lost the reason I started." Her mother listened quietly before saying, "Kimi, your work was never about the videos. It was about the way you made people feel seen. Tools break, platforms change, but the heart behind your work is yours alone." The words were simple, but they pierced the fog in Kimi's mind. She remembered Ada. She remembered her first 20 viewers. And she remembered that 2:14 a.m. spark. With her clarity restored, Kimi decided to create something bigger than a video, a physical space where young creators could connect, share, and learn. She called it the Makers Festival. The day arrived with the smell of fresh paint and fried plantain drifting through the air. Handmade booths lined the open courtyard, each run by a young artist, designer, or storyteller she had mentored or inspired. Music played softly from speakers borrowed from a local church. Kimi walked among the crowd, feeling the hum of energy. She wasn't just a creator anymore, she was a curator of creativity. During the festival, Kimi filmed a short, raw video showcasing the makers and their work. She posted it that night with the caption, "This is why I started." Within 48 hours, the video exploded, millions of views across platforms, shared by celebrities, reposted by global art accounts. The comment sections overflowed with people asking how they could start their own Makers Festival in their cities. Kimi realized this was no longer just her story, it was a blueprint others could follow. Opportunities poured in, but instead of taking them all for herself, Kimi began training a small team of young creators to run the maker's journey alongside her. She taught them storytelling, content creation, and the importance of staying true to their voice. Handing over parts of her platform wasn't easy, but watching them grow was worth it. She saw in them the same hunger she'd had in her one-room apartment, the same fire that could burn even in the shadows. Late one rainy evening, Kimi sat at her old desk, the tin roof above singing its familiar rhythm. She opened her laptop, not to upload, not to check views, but to write. She began a letter to her younger self, the one who thought she wasn't cut out for this. She wrote about the failures, the silence, the unexpected messages that had changed her life. She wrote about Ada, about the festival, about the thousands of strangers who now felt like family. When she finished, she closed the laptop and simply listened to the rain. The shadows in the room no longer felt heavy. They felt like they were clapping. Because Kimi had learned the truth, high-quality ideas don't need perfect polish, they need honest purpose. And she had found hers the night her power went out, and something greater switched on inside her. Years later, Kimi would still remember the sound of rain on the tin roof. It was no longer a reminder of her struggles, but a melody of beginnings. Every time she heard it, she thought of the girl who stayed up at 2:14 a.m., typing into her phone's notepad, refusing to let her story go quiet. The maker's journey had grown into a network of creators across countries, each one using what they had to build something that mattered. But for Kimi, the greatest success wasn't her mother listened quietly before saying, "Kimi, your work was never about the videos. It was about the way you made people feel seen. Tools break, platforms change, but the heart behind your work is yours alone." The words were simple, but they pierced the fog in Kimi's mind. She remembered Ada. She remembered her first 20 viewers. And she remembered that 2:14 a.m. spark. With her clarity restored, Kimi decided to create something bigger than a video, a physical space where young creators could connect, share, and learn. She called it the Makers Festival. Have you ever told yourself, "I'll start when I have more"? More tools, more space, more time? Kimi's story is proof that you don't have to wait for perfect conditions. The spark begins when you decide to light it. What's one idea you've been keeping in the shadows? Share it in the comments. Tag a friend who needs to hear this today. Your story is your most powerful tool. Don't keep it waiting. Start now, right where you are, with what you have. Numbers or the events, it was knowing that somewhere, in a small room in a far-off city, another young dreamer was hitting record for the first time, believing they had enough to start. Have you ever told yourself, "I'll start when I have more"? More tools, more space, more time? Kimi's story is proof that you don't have to wait for perfect conditions. The spark begins when you decide to light it. What's one idea you've been keeping in the shadows? Share it in the comments. Tag a friend who needs to hear this today. Your story is your most powerful tool. Don't keep it waiting. Start now, right where you are, with what you have.